Well, thank you. Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo joins us now. We did just find out that an all clear has been given to people who are in their bunkers there in Israel. So they go back and forth and they are on their toes. This just in from Reuters saying that Iranian officials are saying they will discuss limits on uranium enrichment. However, the official quoted his words saying a zero enrichment proposal will be rejected, especially after Israel's attack. So how does that square with what President Trump has said, which is they have to surrender it all?
Well, Dana, good morning. Thanks for having me on. It doesn't square. It doesn't remotely square. Indeed, it's the first I've heard of that statement. I don't see that statement as being remotely different from what they've been saying for weeks. They've always said they'll have limits. Indeed, they've had limits, and they've violated. They've cheated on those very limits for years and years and years. So for the Iranians to say, no, we still want to have some limited amount of enrichment means they're still headed down this same path. And I think President Trump will clearly see that. You're right. He has said zero enrichment. He's also talked about unconditional surrender. It doesn't sound like the Iranians are anywhere near that. And I'm confident that the negotiations that continue will be done, as Secretary of State Schultz called it, in the shadow of power. Because absent that, without what President Trump has done to set up these conditions where the Iranians know that they could lose it all, without that risk, without that power being prevalent and visible, negotiations are just another euphemism for surrender and capitulation.
Listen to Senator Tom Cotton about Fordow. This is that main enrichment facility where the weaponization would take place. This is what he says.
For 25 years, American presidents have been pledging that Iran cannot get a nuclear weapon, but only one, Donald Trump, actually has done something about it and has said that we're going to bring this chapter to a close soon. So as you put it, Fordow, their deeply buried underground nuclear bunker, has to be closed one way or the other. It can be closed the easy way,
it has to
or
be
it can be closed the
immediately.
hard way.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Senator Cotton captured it perfectly. It was great to hear his voice. He and I have been working on this for a long time together. He and I are the ones that discovered the John Kerry, Barack Obama secret side deals now, gosh, almost a decade ago, which reminds us all that it is time to put this to rest, to get all of the enrichment out of Iran, to finally put Israel in a place where it can be secure, and most importantly for the American people, to make sure that we are safe and we don't have to live under the threat of a nuclear-armed Iranian regime that has for years talked about death to our nation and done everything it can to facilitate that.
I want to show you this headline from the Telegraph today, that China sends mystery transport planes into Iran. You had a column in the New York Post this week saying that by defanging Iran, Trump would also bloody China and Russia. What do we need to know about that connection and those relationships between Russia, China, and Iran?
Dana, both Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping, the leader of those two countries, have made pledges to the Iranian regime. They've said we're lifelong friends. We have deep security relationships. And of course, to date, while Iran's regime is threatened, they've done almost nothing to support them. Not surprising. They picked a loser and now can see that. I've seen this reports that they're moving cargo of some sort into Iran. I don't know if that's true or exactly what it might be. But if the Chinese or the Russians were serious, they would have put their troops there. They would have done what they could with their defense systems. They would have created trouble somewhere else in the world. And instead, they've abandoned their erstwhile ally, their regime in Iran. They are clearly net losers from what Israel has done so far. And completing this task will accomplish two things. One, it'll take down their nuclear weapons efforts, ballistic missiles, all of the development work that goes alongside of that. And second, it will demonstrate to Xi Jinping, who's thinking about Taiwan, and to Vladimir Putin, who has already invaded Europe, they will recognize that President Trump is someone that is not to be trifled with and is prepared to do the hard work to deter them from further aggression.
Much more to come on all of this, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you next week as President Trump heads to the NATO summit on Monday. Foreign policy, a huge issue going into the weekend. Thank you so much, Secretary.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Dan. Have a good day.